I didn't hide it, Ellie, I swear.
I have nothing to do with the lost bosun's pipe.
Ellie, what the heck did you do with my bosun's pipe?
I would think it's more Ellie than me. She knows that attic.
As much as I don't like to hear you play it, I did not hide it.
I think it's. Have you ever seen the K Mutiny?
No.
Captain Queeg? That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here.
Mutiny.
I had my bosun's pipe here. Oh, you know what? I think so. Hold on. We're almost 1 minute to go.
60 seconds till we're live. Facebook, if you'd like to go ahead and take a moment to just go ahead and like us, that would be incredible. If you'd like to share us, that would be even more incredible.
And if you want to join, if you have a bosun's pipe at home, as most people do, I would think, feel free to play it.
Pipe us on board.
Pipe us aboard.
We'll play this to pipe us aboard to begin.
All right.
That is so smooth.
That is. New theme song.
If you're liking a new theme song, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, what do we call the new theme song?
Thank you, Dawn.
Welcome, everybody, to our Veterans Breakfast Club Happy Hour. My name is Todd. I am the director of the Veterans Breakfast Club, and tonight we are celebrating the 245th birthday of the United States Navy. And we're going to air, we have some illustrious Navy veterans. Ray McKinney, look at Carol Popchuk has her Navy helmet on. We have, I believe it's Ray McKinney joining us. Hello, Ray, World War II Navy veteran. We have Julia Parsons, World War II Navy veteran. Don Nemchek, Vietnam Navy veteran. This is wonderful. We have Bob Young. Carol, what the heck? What are you wearing? What is that on your head?
I am wearing my father-in-law's World War II helmet from the Edward Jones destroyer escort. He was a radio man, third class on the Edward Jones, or Herbert Jones, I think it is.
Are you?
It's on the helmet.
Are you allowed to take helmets when you separate from the Navy?
I don't know, but I have an even more bizarre thing. My father-in-law gave this to my husband, who was his oldest son. I got his dog tags, which I wear all the time as jewelry on military holidays. Dad gave his dog tags to me. And we always had a Navy uniform hanging in our closet with my husband's clothes. So as I'm going through things, I thought, well, I have to decide what to do with this. And I took it off the hanger. And it didn't have Dad's name in it. It had somebody else's name. So I contacted my two other brother-in-laws and I said, what's the story? And they said, oh, yeah. Dad told us something about how he traded a Navy uniform for something that the guy wanted more. I don't even know what it was. So I have a full, midshipman's uniform, the navy blue wool, the hat, which is way too small for me to wear. These must have been children in the Navy in World War II.
The hats are so small. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know my father-in-law was younger than he was supposed to be, I think, when he enlisted. But and this full Navy uniform belonging to somebody else.
That is so great. I tell you, Navy, I've heard from Army veterans especially that there are no better traders and swappers and salespeople than Navy people.
And Todd, if I may interject, that's called cumshaw in the Navy.
Is that what it's called?
That's right. That's a nautical term. That's an old Navy term of cumshaw. C-U-M-C-A-W.
I have so many issues with the Navy, and I'm just going to air them tonight. They're the words that they have. The slang is so hard to follow. but probably half of all Army, and maybe Roland Glenn can attest to this, probably half of all Army soldiers who were shipped overseas on Navy ships lost money gambling with Navy personnel on those ships. Fully half, I would say. And and I've heard that the best salespeople were the CBs, Dennis McCarthy. That's what I've heard. I've heard that you could buy anything from a CB. Let's see if it, Dennis, maybe you'll chime in on that, because we're going to bring Dennis up later on in a little bit. Dennis?
Yes, sir.
I heard that you could buy anything from a CB. Is that true?
Yeah, you can, actually. We would take most anything, even the stuff that was nailed or bolted down. If we needed it, it was ours. So first comes, first served.
So hang on to your...
Is that gear adrift is a gift? I've heard that term.
Hang on to your wallets, those of you who are in the room tonight. This is wonderful. The 245th birthday of the Navy. It was October 13th, 1775, that the Continental Congress decided to create a Navy. And you might be asking yourself, why did they wait so long? Because they created the Army on June 14th, 1775, right when the war began. But they forgot, literally, about creating a Navy. And it only occurred to them when they got a report that the British fleet was crossing the Atlantic Ocean and ready to come. So they very hastily, created 7 or 8 officers and 7 or 8 ships. And that was the initial United States Navy. And then after the American Revolution, the Navy was defunct. They sold the ships, sold pretty much the whole Navy, and only recreated the Navy probably 10 years after the Revolution, 1794, with the Naval Act. They decided to create a Navy again. The founders weren't thrilled with the Navy. They were fine with the Coast Guard guarding the coast, but navies are expensive. Again, watch your wallet. I think that's the lesson here.
America used the France's Navy in the Revolutionary War.
Yes, they did.
So
yes,
there wasn't an immediate need.
Exactly. Yes, the Navy, the father of the U.S. Navy, John Paul Jones, whose real name was not John Paul Jones, and who was a murderer, and who was a fugitive from justice. His ship was a Bonhomme Richard, which was a French ship, given to him. But I want to introduce, we have Sean Hall with us. He's our director of programming. Good evening, Sean. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. And we have Ellie DiPastino. She is in Chicago, and she's engineering the program. Thank you, Ellie, for joining us. I do just a couple of announcements before we get to some great Navy stories here. I want to let people know we do have our Veterans Breakfast Club virtual breakfast Wednesday morning at 9. This is at the same Zoom address right here. This is, no real heavy agenda, and we don't simulcast it on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. We just have a conversation. It's a lot of fun. Please do join us Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. if you can. And also today, Monday, is the day that we release the new episode of The Scuttlebutt. And I was not on The Scuttlebutt, and I enjoyed it, but I listened to it today and I enjoyed it so much. And so now, Sean, when you tell me to close my crumb catcher, I'll know what you're talking about.
That's right. Can anybody else tell me what a crumb catcher is? It's the mouth. That's at least what I've heard. But yes, we release the Scuttlebutt on Mondays. This week, we talk about regular military headlines. We dive a little bit into some pranks. James Martin shared some of the pranks that he pulled on some of his new enlistees. I don't know if anyone has their ID10 Tango form, but if you do not, make sure that you fill one out.
ID10 Tango form.
ID10
fill
Tango
it out.
form.
Yeah.
Fill it out. It's important. And we talk about Afghanistan at 19. Some interesting takes, as we also had Karen Sudkamp on with us, and she was in DOD intelligence. James was boots on the ground in the Marines. It was interesting talking with both of them about the interplay between both of those different dynamics. And then we have our always enjoyable Scuttlebutt round. So if you have a chance, Ellie threw it, thank you, into the chat. If you want to take a look, you can go on our website, listen to it there, or pop over to YouTube. Ellie does an incredible job adding a whole bunch of wonderful elements to the video. If you like watching it, it's up there to watch. So thank you.
And thank you, Sean. And yeah, please do check out the Scuttlebutt. It's really interesting. I learned so much listening to it today. There's one thing I want to bring up again before we start, and that is this whole peacoat business. I promise this is the last time I bring it up. I mean, I am really hung up on this phasing out the peacoat. If you haven't read the blog entry, "Goodbye to the Navy Peacoat" on October 1st, the Navy said its final goodbye to the peacoat. It will no longer be issued. Standard issue is replaced by the black cold weather parka, which you can see here below. It's superior in every way, except that everybody hates it. And we probably got more email about the peacoat than about any issue we've ever dealt with before. I mean, some of the greatest notes that we got, and my favorite personal note was from Dennis McCarthy right here with us. And I'm going to read it to everybody. This is Dennis's. Dennis is a Vietnam veteran, sailor, and CB with the Navy. And at first, when I read the email, I was a little scared that he was blaming me for getting rid of the peacoat. Because he said, "Hey, nobody asked me if this is okay," which it is not. I had a deal with the Chief of Naval Operations to pass all his decisions by me. I guess it was a 50-year expiration time frame on those courtesies. My mother-in-law, God bless her 89-year-old soul, laid claim to my peacoat when we moved back to Pittsburgh. At first, I was very proud that she wanted it. And then I saw the stylish improvements she made to it. Leopard fur around the cuffs and the collar. It looks as ugly as the new all-weather parka piece of crap that the Navy is issuing. If I still had that beloved jacket in pristine condition, I could make a small killing on eBay or Amazon, and then it's a string of obscenities. The next thing you know, they'll want to put air conditioning on ships. Dennis McCarthy, sailor, CB, in days gone by. I think you speak for a lot of sailors, Dennis. Let's unmute you here. We can't hear you, Dennis. You're going to have to unmute yourself if you can. Here we go.
I do have fond memories of that peacoat. Starting in boot camp, if you had the 2 to 4 watch or the 4 to 8 watch, it got cold and foggy out in San Diego, and I can remember walking my post a lot of times, grateful that that jacket was as warm as it was. Now they said the new one is supposed to be because it can be folded compactly into a sea bag. But you can fold a peacoat into a sea bag. That's what it came in when you got it. That's where you kept it. So I'm not buying that excuse.
Yeah, the peacoat was around before the Navy, 50 years before the Navy.
Well, Todd,
yes.
Does anybody know what the original peacoat meant? Is it for the peas or whichever? It's the type of material, the pea wool. Yeah. And I can attest to what Dennis is saying. I took one of my schools, radioman school up at Bainbridge, Maryland, from January to April. Having that peacoat, trust me, saved us a lot while we were walking patrol guard or whichever, back and forth to classes, of course. And that peacoat, it has that snappy look when you put that collar up. And we were at the boot camp for waves, female sailors. And trust me, we thought we were something when we had that peacoat on and snapped that collar up. We were salty.
You know, I'm going to be dropping some Navy slang every once in a while and asking people if they know the the translation. And because I have this thing with Navy slang, there's so many slang terms in the Navy. So the vernacular is so specific for everything, bathrooms and walls and floors and stairs and, and then you get to the anchors and ropes and it just gets out of control. And, but I threw up my hands today because of this. The official color of the Navy peacoat is either dark blue or midnight blue. But I've seen Navy peacoats, they're black. And, I looked at a lot of them on the internet today. And finally I found the answer, and I probably spent a half an hour on this whole thing. Somebody wrote, in the Navy, midnight blue is what you say for the color black. And I threw up my hands and said, that's it. I will no longer even attempt to speak this language. This is like, all right. So, and I just wanted to share a couple cartoons here that I found dedicated to the Navy. And here's one. This has to do with the slang. Here's a guy get a fid and splice the bitter end into the eye, then fake it all down. And then the sailor says, are you even speaking English? The other guy's looking it up on YouTube. Here's a Navy chief. This is our first visit to this port, so be on your best behavior. Questions? Where are the bars? Any clothing optional beaches? Who do we call if we get thrown in jail? All right. And my apologies for this one. You can see these two parents are having dinner with their child. Dad, how come you never talk about what you do in the Navy? And she says, he's an officer, honey. He doesn't really do anything. That's why they don't allow fraternization.
Todd, that's why oftentimes some people will call a chief, say, sir, can I come over to, Child today? He says, don't call me sir, sailor. I work for a living.
Right. And this Lieutenant Airman Hensley here wanted to know if it's okay to wear a nose ring on the ship. What did you tell him, Chief? I asked him to hang around until we got a ruling. And then finally, for your submariners out there, submarine school, there are 2 rules. Number 1, close the hatch. Number 2, dive. Now, I cannot overstress the importance of the order here. Okay. All right. That's my kind of humor. So let's see. Who do we want? Don, I know that you, what ships did you serve on? You have a hat. I can't read it from here.
Yes, I served on 3 commands. The ship that I served on was the USS Constellation, attack aircraft carrier, CVA 64. And the noteworthiness of the USS Constellation, particularly during the Vietnam era, was she was first on line at the Tonkin Gulf to fly air operations in about 65, 66. We were also the last ship to fly combat air ops over North Vietnam and Laos in 1973. So it has some long history, not only in the Vietnam War, it also served in Desert Storm, etc., before being decommissioned. But in addition to the USS Constellation, I served as a radioman at Fleet Center, Naval Communications Center, Guam. And then also I served as a staff radioman for the Commander Naval Forces in the Philippines in Subic Bay, and then on to the USS Constellation.
Is this a picture of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I creeped on the internet and found this, and I thought it was you. Just wanted to make sure. Why did you join the Navy?
I joined the Navy for several reasons, Todd. Again, it was the height of the Vietnam era. Coming from McKeesport, we had a long legacy of service, and I knew that it was either going to be draft time or enlist, and I thought the Navy was a better fit for me. I enjoyed the adventure. That's what allured me to the Navy. I like that pea coat and those dress blues, of course, but I also wanted the adventure and, of course, to serve my country as well. I had some family history in the Navy. My uncle was a Seabee in World War II during Guadalcanal, and I had a cousin who was a sailor as well. So, we kind of got together, and I just thought the Navy was a better match for me than perhaps the Army or the Marine Corps. And
it was. You would say, in retrospect, it probably was a good match for you?
Absolutely. The bonds that are made in any branch of the service, for me, particularly in the Navy, I'm still in touch with guys from 50 years ago. And it means so much to me that we're also going to be doing a Zoom call this week. We've kind of found 4 of our good buddies, and we thought it's about time to do a Zoom call. But what's interesting to me, back in the day, you grew up in McKeesport. We were close friends with everybody, going to school, and we had guys we thought were our lifelong buddies. I now stay in touch with the guys I was in the Navy with 50 years ago. The guys I was hanging on the corner with, they live a half hour away from me. I haven't seen them in 10 years.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. It's very amazing. Very telling, too. And I think the other fellows can kick into that because the bonds that you make sometimes when times aren't that good, you know who could you can trust watching your back, has your back protected, somebody you can relate to. We've all thrown in stressful situations. We were away from home, maybe some of us for the first time, 10,000 miles away. And all of a sudden, you got a guy that you're eating breakfast with, and all of a sudden, he's your buddy for the rest of your life. And it means a lot to me. It really does.
I think that is one thing that really struck me when I first started working with veterans was how the tightness of the bonds, kind of unlike anything in the civilian world.
What's funny is I'll wear my cover, this one or a U.S. Navy veteran. I'll be out in the butt. Perhaps we'll be on Costco or something, and there'll be another guy with a similar hat on and stuff. And all of a sudden we make eye contact with each other about 10 minutes. My wife will come by. She says, "Boy, how did you know that guy?" I said, "I have no idea who that guy is." So we just talked to him for 10 minutes at length, shook hands, and we were buddies. I said, that's all it is. You just show that you care about each other, and you tell a funny story. Maybe we'll tell some of them today if we can clean it up a little bit.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. It's just something that you can't put a finger on. But veterans like the fellows that are here, I think we all know what I'm talking about. You have a buddy or even just a guy that says, "What ship were you on? Or where did you serve? When did you serve back there?" Good story about that. I was going up to the Giant Eagle the other day, and a fellow was coming out of his car, and he had a Vietnam veteran hat on. And I just kind of looked, we made eye contact. I said, "Thank you for your service, buddy." I said, "I appreciate your time." And, he looked at me and said, "Hardly anybody ever tells me that." Okay, I said, "Well, as a veteran, you know how much it means to me, and I know it means a lot to you as well." We were at a ceremony when the Vietnam Wall came to McKeesport, the replica, and I was charged with getting some names together so they could be recognized for Congressman Doyle's office. And I did that. And one of the fellows that I selected, if you will, and got the information over to the congressman's office, during the ceremonies, his name was mentioned, and we all went up to the front and got a hat and our Vietnam veterans pin and stood next to the wall. And he come over to me, he says, "Don, no one's ever mentioned my name nor even recognized my service in 50 years. Okay. And I thought about that. I said, man, it's just one of those things. We didn't do it for recognition. We didn't enlist to be recognized or anything like that, but just not having that recognition for 50 years, no one ever saying his name as a veteran, as a Navy guy. And it meant a lot to me. I'm glad I included him. And, those are the type of things that just stay with you as a veteran. And I don't want to hog the conversation, but.
No, you're so eloquent, Don. I mean, I agree. It's just, I think you're speaking for a lot of other veterans, especially Navy veterans. And by the way, by cover, he meant hat, just so you all know that. George Skivington, how are you? I think it's your first time joining us here on the virtual side. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you.
I'm going to show a picture of you. Why did you join the Navy?
Well, I joined the Navy to go I was 3 years at school and I really didn't like it. And I was going to go into nuclear power.
Ooh.
And I thought that would be a great place for, something different. And, I could either go to sea or be on land. So when I got to boot camp, they go, "Skivington, you go over here." I said, "Well, is that with the nuclear power guy?" "No, you just go over here. You're colorblind. You're not going in the nuclear Navy." I said, "Wait a minute. I signed." He said, "Okay, fine. You're over here." So I ended up on an aircraft carrier, not on the nuclear Navy.
And what did you do on the aircraft carrier?
I got tired of school,
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, you put 3 years in, though. This is college. 3 years of college?
3 years of college.
And you couldn't do that final year?
Nope. I got tired of it. And then, when I got out of the Navy, I went back and got finished and got my master's.
Yeah, you bet.
I just needed that. You needed
the break.
I needed that 4 years to get my head on, I guess I should say.
And what did you do? What was your job? You didn't get in the nuclear Navy. What did you end up doing?
Well, I was in what was called the repair division. And what we did is we took care of most of the repairs that occurred on the ship within, let's say, what was called the pipe shop, or all the plumbing, pipes and everything that went in that ship. You can imagine how many are in there. The carpenter shop, the what's called the ship fitter shop, where we built various things, especially out of sheet metal. And where mine was the damage control. I was a damage controlman. So I ran the ship's fire party while at sea. So
what does that
meant
mean exactly? Yeah, tell me what that means.
Well, it means anything below the hangar bay, the 1,000, 1,200 compartments we had, that was my responsibility if there was an incident to respond with a team of guys.
Got it.
And then communicate what was going on and either call for additional resources, go to general quarters, or a lot of things, different things we could do. But we only had one significant fire on there, and it wasn't really significant. I call it significant on there, and it lasted for, I don't know, 2 hours. So we were lucky.
And you were on the CVA 67 USS John F Kennedy, and here's another Navy tradition. You were a plank owner. Can you tell
Yes.
people what a plank owner is?
A plank owner is the first crew on any boat, right? They are named as a plank owner. So if you were the first crew, you got recognized, you got a plaque. Years ago, you used to get a piece of the teak wood, but obviously teak wood is long gone from Navy ships.
Right.
That's how the thing plank owner started.
And you're here somewhere.
Well, let me tell you one other story for it, because you brought up CompShaw.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm in repair division. I'm in charge of all the supplies. Now, I'm on an aircraft carrier, so you think we could get anything we wanted. Other than the submarines, which the air is, in the Navy, the air is a big deal. But there are things that I couldn't get. So what I used to, for example, when I went in the yard, and I'm sure other guys know this, I used to trade coffee to the yard guys. Why would I trade coffee? Because that's what they wanted for their shop. They wanted, so I needed a piece of 16 gauge stainless steel I couldn't get. I go to the yard. It was brought over with a crane, put on the boat for me. Now,
how much coffee did you have to give them?
Well, that's working with a supply officer a lot. Coffee at that time came in 5 pounds. I don't know if the rest of the guys remember. They came in great big, I guess they were aluminum cans, 5 pounds. So, that would go for quite a while in the shop. Now, the guys from destroyers, for example, that were in Norfolk with us, they didn't have anything. They didn't give these guys enough money, but they had coffee. So they used to come over and trade for me. I need 3 sections of fire hose, 1.5 inches. Okay, that's 10 pounds of coffee. That's a lot of fire hose. So I would stock. So what we would do, nothing illegal, right? Nothing illegal. We would trade, barter, right? Back and forth. And that's how we, again, it wasn't everything, but the Navy's a bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
So if you said you needed 200 feet of angle iron, and then you ended up with 300, you couldn't get the other 100 because you didn't ask for it in the first place, and it didn't get 16 approvals on it. So you CompShaw.
That's it. So that's where it comes from, this need.
Yeah, the
that's
bartering.
A great, yeah, Chad
Yes.
Riddle. Chad. Let's get Chad up here. Chad, I know you have something to say.
Yeah. Hey, Todd and George as well. It wasn't just coffee, canned ham.
That's true. You're right. Canned ham.
I was the supply
Canned ham.
officer.
I'm sorry. You're right. Canned
I
ham.
was the supply officer on board our ship, and I can assure you, anytime the guys needed something, they were going to trade, barter, CompShaw, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Riddle, we need this. Can we have 5 pounds of coffee or a canned ham or both?
And he was a supply officer. See, he couldn't get it. He couldn't get it. See?
Totally legal.
That's the way things get done.
So this is where, I started the program by joking about how, we have to hold on to our wallets because you guys are always trading stuff and making a joke of it. But you explained kind of where that comes from and how important it is, because when you're working on a ship, supplies are everything and they're finite. They're finite.
Hey, Todd,
So you got to take care of the supplies officer. Do you understand? We always took care of the supplies guys.
Yeah.
Right? Anything we could do, we did for them.
And one of the best stories, we were on a small ship, and the radioman, the Radio Shack, wanted to rearrange their shelving and everything, and they needed angle iron. They couldn't get it. They saw a whole bunch of it sitting in a lot on the submarine base in Groton. And I said, well, go over and get it. And they did, but unfortunately, some other officers saw them taking it. And they took, yeah, there I am. And they took the ship's number off of the truck. And about a half an hour later, some officers calling the captain, and he's not happy. And so he calls me in. I was somewhere on the ship, and he says, what's going on? And I said, well, that must be about Stussy needed some angle iron, and they went out and got some. And he said, tell you what you do. Tell Stussy to take some of it back and make sure he's driving past that office, wherever it was on the base, and make sure they see you. You don't have to take it all, just take some of it back.
So don't take more than you need.
Well, no, we still needed it, but we got it later.
What made you want to join the Navy, Chad? And I'm going to go back to George because he still has something to share, and Don also. But what made you join the Navy?
It wasn't the Army.
That's all it needed to be, huh?
Yeah, well, no, I had spent 2 years working on the Great Lakes on an ore boat.
Merchant Marine?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was familiar with it, and I know what a FID is.
What is a FID?
It's a tool so you can do splicing. You need to pull the rope apart.
Looks like a big pin.
Got it. Yep.
And you really need that if you're splicing wire rope.
What is the bitter end?
That's the end that's not connected to anything.
Okay. The end that's not connected is the bitter end.
Yeah.
How many knots do you know how to make?
A few.
Do you learn it in boot camp?
I didn't go to boot camp. I was in officer school. I learned it in the Boy Scouts.
You learned it in the Boy Scouts, and you were aboard. You were an officer on this ship, the USS
Yes,
Sunbird. And what kind of a ship?
Submarine rescue.
Submarine rescue. So that container deal in the upper left here.
That's called the McCann Rescue Chamber. If anybody wants to see one, go to Pearl. They
Okay.
have one right next to the bowfin.
Okay. Very good.
And I came out of a submarine in one of those.
Oh, I don't know if that sounds any better than the Army, Chad.
Hey, my bed moved, but I had one.
Your bed moved, but you had one.
Too bad my buddy Jeff isn't here.
Yes, that's right. Jeff Witherell should be here. That's
So
right.
He's in the Army.
Because you guys went to high school with
Yes, we
together,
did.
and he went into the Army, you went into the Navy. It'd be
Right.
good to compare. Dale Gower, we also have Francis Hines here, who's in the Coast Guard rather than the Navy. Did you guys in the Coast Guard, was there the Comshaw stuff going on in the Coast Guard also?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see too much of that.
Did you do a lot of trading?
Not really. I wasn't in a position where I had to do that.
That's good.
So.
When I was in St. George, Staten Island, you slept on these bunks with about mattress about 2 inches thick, and it's on springs, and my back was bothering me. And I went up to the base carpentry shop. I asked the guy for a piece of plywood, 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. He just gave me the plywood, and I took it back to the ship, put it underneath my mattress, and I slept well. Didn't have to worry about those springs or anything.
So you did. So there was some of that going on in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I mean, I just went up and asked. I had no problem.
Why, I guess when you think of maritime duty, you think of the Navy first and the Coast Guard second. So why did you choose the Coast Guard, not the Navy?
My brother was in the Coast Guard. He was a yeoman on Pier 9 East River in New York City. And when the draft was coming up, and I knew I had to go, and he strongly suggested I'd be better off in the Coast Guard. And then they wound up starting a Coast Guard Reserve unit up in White Plains, New York. I lived in the Bronx, and I joined the Coast Guard Reserve unit, and I was in the unit for 3 years before I went active.
Does the Coast Guard have the same kind of slang that the Navy has? In other words, do you use those same terms? Okay, so you share cover, stanchion, deck. Okay.
Okay.
Key dunk.
You're talking about peacoats earlier.
Yeah.
I went to school in New York State, northern part of New York State. And I took my peacoat with me. Sometimes it was 40 below. And I had the peacoat, and I had a Coast Guard issued black sweater. I used to wear the sweater, the peacoat, a watch cap, and a scarf, and I was perfect in the 40-degree below weather.
40-degree below. Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Let's get back here to George Skivington. George, so you're in the Navy. You're aboard this carrier, the John F. Kennedy, in the repair unit. You're a plank owner. You're on the shakedown cruise, which is kind of like, there's a reason for that term, shakedown. I can't remember what it is. It's to, test things out, right? A test drive.
Absolutely. It's usually happens after the scene of a ship, but before the commissioning. You on sea trials, and you try to put the ship through every kind of evolution that you can to test to make sure it works.
Right.
So, and then after commissioning, you might go on an actual, I guess I'd call a little more specific shakedown cruise where you brought the aircraft aboard.
Oh, yes. In your case, right.
To make sure everything works before you're assigned to a actual duty station.
And I mean, how many thousands of people are aboard the John F. Kennedy when you were on it?
About 5,000.
5,000. Jeez. Where's this picture from? What's going on here?
Well, of course, that's a church, right? No, that's in.
I'm very gullible, George.
That's in the enlisted man's club. You can see I'm on the far left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my wife to be next to me. Yep.
Where? At a Navy station, Navy base somewhere?
Navy station in Norfolk. Yep.
Okay.
Let me tell you one Pittsburgh story before you get going too. As a firefighter on a ship, it's a lot different than a firefighter in the, in the outside world, because when you're inside a ship, first of all, there's nowhere to go. And second of all, you're in compartments below decks where there's no portholes. So there's no oxygen. So what did we use to see if we had to wear breathing apparatus or we could go into a compartment? We used mine safety lamps that come from Pittsburgh.
How about that?
The old mine, you understand what a miner used to use?
Yes.
Right. And if some of the guys can hear, we're in supply. The hardest thing to do was to get little flints that went in these things that you would spark. And they had naphtha. It had a solvent called naphtha. And the reason they used naphtha, that would burn at, I forget the exact, maybe 18% oxygen. So anything, if the lamp went out, you knew you had to put breathing apparatus on.
And George, Sean and I were talking on the Scuttlebutt. We talked a little bit about the issue of fire aboard ships, because we were talking about the fire aboard the USS Bonhomme Richard in San Diego last month, and it was a catastrophic fire, absolutely catastrophic. And talking about how that could have happened, and Lauren Del Ricci was saying how fire is like pretty much your number one fear aboard a ship.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. Brad Washabaugh asks a trivia question. Brad, where was the birthplace of the United States Navy? Good question, Brad. Where was the birthplace of the U.S. Navy? And Brad is a Marine.
I'm just going to throw a guess, but I think it was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's what I would guess.
That's what I would guess too.
That's wrong. That's wrong. It's in
Boston?
it's in Whitehall, New York. Whitehall,
Yep, New York.
Whitehall, New York. Where is that?
It's up near Lake Champlain. It was on the lakes, landlocked. A lot of people don't know that. Birthplace of U.S. Navy, Whitehall, New York.
Explain, like, what the British were coming to the Atlantic Ocean. What are they doing on Lake Champlain?
Well, there was they had to reconstruct to get some ships to get on that on the riverway. You know, that was the whole strategic approach, was to come down, you know, on those lakes and the rivers.
Right.
And the Navy had to reconstitute itself in Whitehall, New York.
In-
US Navy.
That's great. Chad, yes?
I object.
Whoa, we love controversy here at the Veterans Breakfast Club. Why do you object?
The Naval History and Heritage Command, Todd, I will send it to you. It says the Continental Congress's resolution to procure 2 armed vessels adopted in Philadelphia on 13 October 1775 was the original legislation out of which the Continental Navy grew.
I'm on Brad's side here.
Was that the first or second time the Navy was formed? Because
I'm just telling you what it says here on the Naval History and Heritage Command.
Yes,
Go ahead, Brad.
If you go with order of seniority, it's always Army, Marine Corps, Navy. You know, the Navy kind of teeter-totter back and forth. Do we need one? Do we want one? Well, you know, a lot of indecision, but for the Marine Corps, it was never a factor. They formed it and they kept it. The Navy, on the other hand, was kind of like, maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
Are you as a Marine making a value judgment here, Brad, or is this just a simple statement of history?
I'm just stirring the pot.
Yeah, Brad, with all due respect, since the Marine Corps was formed in Tums Tavern, maybe their thinking was a little bit distorted.
You know, that is interesting. The Navy really did have 2 foundings. It had the one founding during the American Revolution, 1775, which is the birthday that is commemorated tomorrow on October 13th. And then there was a second founding, and I think you would put that on March 27th, 1794, when under the U.S. Constitution, the Department of Navy was created. So kind of the Navy as we know it is a direct descendant of that March 27, 1794. That may have been the Lake Champlain Navy, Chad. So I'm on Brad's side with this. That argument.
Well, I just sent it to you and Ellie. It's documented.
And also the Coast Guard. Truly, you could say the Coast Guard was before the Navy too. Because 1790, yep. But it's, you know, it's controversial. I know, 1775 for the American Revolution, but then the Navy was disbanded until 1794. So Rich Gotch asked the question, what is a pig boat?
I answered it.
I know, but I want people to talk about it. Do you want to say out loud for the Facebook people, Chad? They can't read what you wrote on the Zoom side.
It's a diesel submarine.
A diesel submarine is a pig boat.
And they smelled really bad.
I can imagine.
They got the nature. The pig boat part was when they came back up off of a dive, opened the hatches.
They had to.
Is that where the term comes from? Because it smelled so bad.
Right.
Oh gosh.
It had nothing to do.
But everybody smelled the same.
Larry Kilmeyer.
Just one little note here. We're talking about fire on board ship. My cousin, Kenny Kilmeyer, enlisted probably in 1966. And he was on board the USS Forrestal when they had their tremendous fire. Yeah. And now that ship's long gone, cut up into razor blades, as he likes to say. And he's the ship's historian to this day. And I got to look at my phone here. He wrote a book. It's called fire, fire, fire on the flight deck. This is not a drill. It's available like through Amazon and what have you. It's
a first-hand account of that fire.
Yes, it's he has all the ship's logs, et cetera, et cetera. So the book's been on the market about 2 years right now. And I was talking to Kenny right during the beginning of the pandemic, and he could write for your newsletter, the Veterans Breakfast Club, but he has an interesting story. The fella that he went to high school with got killed in Vietnam, and I think that story would be worth having printed. And the one question Kenny asked me and I didn't have an answer was, if he were to sit down and write this story on his best friend, David, how many words? What's the average?
For the Veterans Breakfast Club newsletter?
Yeah,
we like it around 500 words if possible, maybe 1,000 words. Why don't you put him in touch with me? I'd love to talk to him about contributing to the newsletter. That'd be wonderful.
I'll do that. He lives in Virginia now, but it's part of one of the reasons I went in the Navy. Not to go to Vietnam, but Kenny was already in the Navy. I had talked with him. I had some ideas of what to expect if I was on a ship. And as it was, I only landed up 3 months on a ship out of 4 years.
Exactly. And I do want to get to that story because it's, so many people serve in the Navy, serve in the air. They serve on the ground. They don't all serve on ships. But I do want to, again, go back to George here. So George, here you are. This is with some crewmen.
Right. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, now that's the new one.
Yes. And that I find this so interesting. So there have been two USS John F Kennedy since yours, correct? Or no? No,
that's correct. There the 67, which followed the the carriers go in order. You saw the Constellation was 64, the Enterprise was 65, the America was 66, and the Kennedy was 67.
Okay.
So they number the aircraft carriers. So Kennedy was in commission from 68 to 2007. Now it's in the Philadelphia Naval Yard, rusting away. Efforts to try to make it like the Midway out on that great ship, if you ever go see it, it's in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
The USS Midway, but it's still sitting there. So what we have an association like many ships, and we were privileged in December to go to the christening of the new John F Kennedy CVN 79. And if you have that other picture that I gave you of the captains.
Oh, yes.
Now, here on the left is our captain, Earl Buddy Yates. He's 92. And he was the first skipper on the 67.
Wow.
On the right is Captain Marzano, who is the prospective commanding officer of the new Kennedy CVN 79. So those are that's at the reunion meeting.
My friend Mike Chirac, who isn't with us today, Navy veteran, submarine, he emphasized, he's the one who's kind of took me by the lapels and said, you have to understand how powerful captains of ships are. They're like gods. I mean, right. Their word is the law. And they really have to be good. If they're bad, the whole ship is bad. If they're great, it's a great ship. How was your captain?
Well, I'll tell you a lot. I only visited with the captain, and I wouldn't call it visited. I only went up on the bridge where the captain sits one time, and the captain was in a bad mood. And I got out of there as fast as I could. So,
wise man.
Yeah, he was mad and hollering. In fact, what's called the junior officer of the deck said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Hey, this is a draft report. You deliver it to him. I'm out of here. So, there's no way I was standing around to take punishment. And the last thing I heard was, officer of the deck, move that shit can to where I told you to. So anyway.
And this is footage I'm sharing of the christening of the new USS John F Kennedy, which was last December. As Sean said when we were previewing this footage, Sean said that's back when we could get together.
Yeah.
That's back when. Yeah,
that's
people
Caroline. That's Caroline Kennedy there.
That's right.
So normally on a christening is when they break the bottle, right?
Yes.
And then the ship comes out of the dry dock. Well, they can't do this here. First of all, that carrier could end up making a 30-foot wave. And I don't think anybody wanted to get, so it's really, you see flooded in the dry dock there. So but Caroline did break the bottle over the ship. That's Caroline right there. Caroline Kennedy.
And here she is. I think this is the actual christening. There it is.
There you go.
Boy, she had to be so proud.
Oh, man.
And that's good news, because if it didn't break, the ship would have destined to have bad luck forever. That's the way the Navy works.
Yeah, the Navy is so custom bound. There are so many customs and traditions in the Navy that the other branches don't have. I mean, all the branches have their traditions, but boy, the Navy, there it is in slow motion. Look at that.
Yep.
Very good. So she ensured that it'll be a successful ship. This is so great. You know, I see Ray McKinney's with us, and he's a World War II Navy veteran. You've joined us once before, Ray. I'm going to ask that you unmute yourself if you can, and I'll share your picture. Ray, you may have to click something on your screen to unmute yourself. It may say unmute. There we go. There we go. That's good. I'm going to find your... How are you, Ray?
Oh, so.
Yeah, I know you're hanging in. You're a little laid up, aren't you?
Well, I'm getting over it.
Okay.
Yeah, I fell a couple of weeks ago. I'm only 94. So.
Well, I may. I'm gonna call you because I'd love to have you on our Greatest Generation Live program, which is Sunday afternoons at 4. So I'll be calling you about that. But I wanted to show, this is a picture of you in the Navy 75 years ago or so. What made you want to join the Navy?
I didn't join. I was drafted. I graduated from high school in June, and July I was in the U.S. Navy.
So you didn't choose it?
No. Well, going through the line, you know, they give you this Army, Navy, Marine thing, and I told them Navy, and the guy stamped it, and that was it. My dad was instrumental in me joining the Navy. He was a mule skinner in World War I.
Oh my.
And he told me, he said, for God's sakes, he said, if you get a choice, take the Navy. He said, you always got a place to sleep and something to eat.
Was he right? Was it good advice?
Yeah, 100%.
And where did you serve? Where did you go?
Well, I was sort of all over. I served in the Atlantic, made 2 round trips to Marseille, France. And then when the war was over in Europe, I went to the Pacific. I think I told you I was in, what's the island down there? The island in the south of Japan.
Oh, Okinawa.
Yeah.
Okinawa.
In Okinawa Bay, loaded with the ship loaded with brand new tanks. I was in what they called the Armed Guard, which was Navy crews on merchant marine ships.
Yes, and we were just talking yesterday on Greatest Generation Live, and by the way, that is our live program that we have every Sunday at 4 p.m. and we have a World War II veteran as a guest, and then usually somebody else who has a story to tell about World War II. And yesterday we had Howard Pfeiffer, who's a merchant mariner in World War II. He was in the Merchant Marine, and he explained the armed guard and how they befriended the Navy personnel on their ships. So you were manning one of those guns?
Yes, we had 20 millimeter machine guns and 3-inch anti-aircraft guns and one 4-inch 50 surface mounted gun. And of course, submarines was your biggest nemesis. You know, you had to stand on 4 hours on and 8 hours off a watch, or looking for the periscope in the water.
Yeah. Did you ever see any?
No.
Did you travel in convoys?
Yes. We made 2 trips. I was on the William L. Smith, which was a United Fruit Company ship out of New York City.
Hmm.
We went into Marseille early 1945. I was on there.
Did you have any good liberties?
Oh, all the time. Never had a bad one.
Never had a bad. That's good. That's a good line. Never had a bad one. Can you talk about any of them or no?
Not really. I guess I was, at 18, 19 years old, you just had all the fun you could have. You didn't pay any attention to where you were at or what. I had 3 days R&R on the Riviera in Nice, France, which was off limits to officers. And I think that was the highlight of the onshore duties there. But that would have been about March or April of 1945.
Oh my. I mean, you literally joined the Navy and saw the world.
If I'd have got across the Indian Ocean, I would have been the whole way around the world.
You've been all the way around. That is so neat, Ray. What was it like to come home after that adventure? I'll call it an adventure.
Glad to get home.
Really?
After the war was over, I was sent to Japan, and I spent 6 months on a yard oiler in Japan. And here's a story if you got time to hear it.
Yeah, we got time.
I had more time in. There was 5 guys replaced the older guys, that wanted to go home. And so I got the first call up. This was the chief warrant officers. And I heard somebody say before, you didn't sir them, you called them chief. And that's absolutely correct. This guy would wrinkle up his face and stare you down if you said sir to him. But he interviewed me. He wanted to know where I was from, and I told him Pennsylvania. And he said, you city or country boy? And I said, well, sort of a country boy. He said, you a farm boy? I said, well, maybe. He said, did you ever tear a motor apart? I said, yeah. He said, you put it back together again? I said, yeah. He said, did it run? I said, no. He said, I want you in the engine room. I never seen a diesel engine in my life before that. But I was on there about 3 months, and he come down. He said, put a crow on your arm. He made me a motor machinist, mate, 3rd class.
That is great. Thank you, Ray McKinney. That is wonderful. We have Bob Young here, another World War II Navy vet. Hey, Bob, good to see you as always.
Thank you. You know, you're talking about the fires before. The only fire we ever had, there was a big announcement on the ship. There's a fire in the incinerator. I'm not kidding.
You're not kidding. That's great. Rick Arisman, I want you to talk. Where are you, Rick? I know you're with us here. I'm looking at the gallery view.
I'm here.
There you are, Rick. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Todd. And you?
I'm doing very well. I'm going to find your picture here on our.
I'm looking forward to your lecture on Wednesday about the history of the Salem witch trials.
That's why I called on you, because you'll
11 Public Library. You have to sign. You have to register at their website.
That's right. That's right. That's
8:30 on Wednesday.
It's what time is it?
7 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30. And I won't talk that long.
This week?
Yeah, this week it'll be Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, Mount Lebanon Public Library website. I'll be giving a talk on the Salem witch trials in time for Halloween. So nothing to do with the military, but good. It's a great story. It's a great, fascinating story. The Salem witch trials, which happened in Danvers, not in Salem. Here, I'm going to having a tough time sharing my screen here. Rick, why don't you tell us why you joined the Navy and when?
Well, I was graduating from college. I had no direction. I'd broken up with my girlfriend and decided to join the military. Went to Raleigh and enlisted in the Navy because I wanted to ride the waves. And my maternal grandfather was Adjutant General of Alabama. I had cousins and relatives that had served in the military. I went to boot camp in Orlando, Company 136, in June of 1969. I did not need a pea coat.
No, you did not need a pea coat.
I don't even know when I got my pea coat, but I was went to radio school at Bainbridge, Maryland, class 6936, and lost my pea coat on the prac deck. Someone, I guess, thought it was theirs.
And you lent me, I'm showing everybody your yearbook, your boot camp yearbook.
Yep. And then after radio school, I was sent aboard 2 LSTs and an LPD. I never had any shore duty. USS Terrebonne Parish, LST 1156, USS York County, LST 1175, and LPD 11, the USS Coronado. You sure that's me? Yeah, you got it right.
Yep, that's you. That's you in boot camp. Do they call it? You said Company 136?
Yeah, Company 136.
Company 136. What was boot camp like?
Simple, easy.
Really?
I started out as RCPO, but my cadence wasn't good, so they knocked me back to first lieutenant or platoon leader or whatever. So I had it pretty easy.
So kind of like the Marine Corps, Brad Washaball, right?
And it was so hot there, you know, the heat went up right through the grinder, the heat went up through your boondockers.
What are boondockers?
Your boots.
Oh, okay, got it.
And yeah, I'm on the York County in the Radio Shack, the teletype.
You're allowed to smoke a pipe on board ship?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Or cigarettes or cigar, whatever you want.
As long as the smoking lamp is lit.
Yes, directly. Of course,
Okay.
probably in the Radio Shack, it didn't matter.
So as long as the smoking lamp is lit, when is it not lit? Like when can't you smoke?
Taking on
Fueling.
fuel.
Oh,
Make it on fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's pretty much the only conditions?
There could be others. It could be taking on fuel if ever the ship is in a distressful situation or whatever. I was on a carrier and as well, but you know, that's a fire is you learn and you burn. You know, you learn
or you
how
burn.
dangerous fire is when you're in basic training. They send you to firefighting school.
Yes,
But,
they do.
That's why the smoking lamp. When they say the smoking lamp is out, they don't mean it might be out. That means the smoking lamp is out. Nobody smokes.
Yes, this is, and Rick, I'm leafing through your yearbook here. I took some pictures of the pictures in the yearbook, And there's a whole section on firefighting and how important that is. So that's something you learn from the get-go in boot camp.
Well, you know, in the Marine Corps, every Marines are riflemen. In the Navy, every sailor is a firefighter.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was damage control petty officer on the Coronado.
Damage control petty officer.
Okay. For the hoses and the equipment in my area, my section.
And here's the firefighting section of the yearbook, and you can see they're, you know, learning how to put out a fire. How interesting.
I don't remember having to do that. We had it simple. See, I went to Orlando, it was brand new, and the waves at Brainbridge were sent down there.
The waves?
Yeah. The wave boot camp was at Bainbridge, Maryland, but it was relocated to Orlando.
And I'm going to show one of your ships that you were on, which was the USS Terrebonne Parish, LST 1156.
We have an association now. We've had 13 reunions, and I'm the ship's historian for the association.
That's great.
How neat. And these ships, you know, we've talked a lot about LSTs before, and I think we will again. These were the workhorses of the Navy for a long, long time.
Large, slow targets.
Large, slow targets, exactly. They were. I'm sorry, I know I'm going to offend you, Rick, but they're big, ugly boats, big, ugly ships with flat bottoms.
Flat bottom, yep.
And they pounded and pounded and pounded.
We bounced all over, and it took us 16 days to transit the Atlantic to the Med.
16 days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
Took us in the Armed Guard 23 days to go from Norfolk to Marseille.
Okay.
Jeez.
Whoa. That's because you were zigzagging in convoys, I bet, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Probably true.
Took us less than 5 days in a carrier.
Yeah.
Sure.
Less than 5 days in an aircraft carrier. That's how fast it was. Oh boy, that's so interesting. Here's another shot of the Terrebonne Parish. And your job was a radio man?
Yeah, RM. Well, I was an RMSN, Seaman, RM3, and ended up as an RM2 on my last two ships.
Rick, did they call you Sparks as well? That's our nickname for the radio men, as I was a radio man also.
Yeah.
Your nickname was Sparks, for example.
Yeah, but they never really referred to us that way. We had evaporators in the radio shack, and we would cool down the sodas and sell them to the crew.
And sell them to the crew. See what I said about the Navy?
We had air conditioning.
We had actually, you had to wear your working jacket. Even though we were in Westpac, it was hot, but we had air conditioned spaces as well because of the gear that we were using. That's right.
Lower ops was pretty unbearable. But I had a fan.
So you actually had air conditioning. Now here's
well, all the equipment
for radio, right?
Oh,
right.
Yeah, certainly.
To keep the radio cool. Here's a distinction in the Navy. A big distinction I learned just over the years talking with veterans is the distinction between a smaller ship like an LST or a destroyer and a larger ship like a battleship or a carrier. One's much more formal. There's a lot more saluting, right? Whereas LST on your small ship, Rick, much less formal, right?
We weren't considered the real Navy. We were the amphibious Navy. We were a little different than the real Navy, the destroyers, the battleships, the cruisers. That's how they were how we were looked upon. We were more or less the Marines' bellhops because we embarked Marines all the time from Camp Lejeune, Paris Island, transport them around the Caribbean and the Mediterranean.
What were the Marines like, Rick? Were they kind of nice guys?
Oh yeah, they were good. We had.
Burn the pot, Brad.
We had.
Yeah, I tell you, there's two groups in the Navy that the Marines have utmost respect for: Navy Corpsmen and the Gator Navy. I mean,
Gator Navy, yeah.
Gator Navy is what we call them.
You like the Gator Navy?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Because you're on ship with them and you learn to work as a team and you learn their jobs and you helped out on watches and it was a vessel that everybody pulled together.
We were a family. more of a family than on a, say, an aircraft carrier of 5,000.
Right, right. Oh, that's so interesting.
Definitely true.
Yeah, we got along pretty well.
I mean,
Yeah, on the carrier, I felt bad for the Marines. They had more, pomp and circumstance stuff. There was a company of Marines on the carrier, and those guys didn't have it very much fun.
they were all doing PT all the time and stuff like that?
No, but they were always in their dress. They were watching the guarding the captain, or they were doing ceremonial stuff, right? They just, they did some of that, but not, I don't remember seeing a lot of that, but I do remember talking to a number of them.
You know, that I can elaborate on that too. When I was on the Constellation, we were we were the Command Task Force 77, so you had an admiral on board. And so there's the Marines, and like you said, we were in dungarees and a skivvy shirt most of the time, and these guys were in spit and polish as Marines do, and they weren't. They were more formal, standing watches, etc., as we were somewhat more casual. But up on the flight deck, whenever we were always flying air ops in Vietnam, but whenever we were done with that in '73, they were doing their PT up on a flight deck, and you could hear them doing their Jody calls, if anybody remembers what that may be.
No, what's that?
A Jody call? You remember watching the movie Full Metal Jacket?
Yes.
They're running in place and they're starting to sing songs, If I Die on a certain place. Okay, that's a Jody call. Okay. Jody is the infamous guy that takes your girl when you're at sea or overseas. Okay, so whenever someone got a Dear John letter, maybe he had the blues, and you could tell the guy was kind of, he was sad or kind of getting emotional that his girlfriend gave him the Dear John and said, "Don't worry about it. Jody got your girl and gone. That's all it is." So the Jody calls can be very, very ribald, and now with the politically correct services, I think that's a thing of the past.
Yeah. You have to wait till you're out of earshot of any headquarters before you start singing.
Some of them are interesting, though, that's for sure.
Hey, can I tell a quick story about the Marines and the U.S. Navy?
Please do.
It shows you how the relationship. We were in an operation in Somalia in the 80s, and I was the CO of troops on the USS Frederick, LST 1184 LST, and we had a great skipper, and we had a great team. And we finished, Somalia was just miserable. And we finished the operation early. And we were sitting on the beach and there was a fog. You couldn't really see too much. I got on a high frequency radio and called out to the ship and said, "Skipper, if you can pick us up early, we'd sure appreciate it." And I knew that was in violation of the larger orders and whatnot. But he, we waited a bit. We had all the tracks lined up on the beach. And sure enough, the radio crackled an hour or so later. He was flashing his lights in the fog, and it was saying, "Splash the tracks, splash the tracks." He came in so close to shore and got the ship ready to receive his Marines. And we got in the water and got the tracks back. And he had lobster and steak dinner waiting for us. And, it was just the way the Navy was. And typically on a ship, the captain, he's either a good guy, and the XO is a real horse's platoon. It's like a relationship they have. There has to be some bad guy. Normally, either one of them.
Bad cop, good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, that's it.
But it is a great time to be on the ship and get to know the Navy, and the bonds I'll always remember.
Oh, this is so much fun. Ken Rizicki put in the chat here about Navy radio men allowing you to call back home in Vietnam?
Yes. Oh, in the Med too.
In the Med too?
Yep.
Ken Rizicki.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they did. We had a Radio Shack, and I think it was called Mars, M-A-R-S, a Mars station.
Yes, it was.
And we gave the phone number to the guy that worked there. That's the number we wanted to call. And he would establish contact with a ship out in the Pacific. I don't know how many ships it took to transfer
to relay
shortwave to usually the state of Washington. Got in touch with a radio with a telephone operator there, and she or he would place a collect call, and then my parents or my fiance, whoever I was calling, would pick up, and then we could converse. But it was, you would have to say several sentences so that they could get the static cleared out. And then you always had to say over, and that went all the way down the line. And then when my parents were responding, they had to do the same thing. But an interesting story, somebody called about a Jody call. One of my enlisted guys woke me up in the middle of the night. And here what happened was he was on a phone call with his wife back in the States, and she informed him that she wanted a divorce.
Oh.
How, and all the people on all those ships are listening in on this,
Oh,
it's not
my.
a private conversation. All these people are hearing this. And can you imagine how they felt?
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
I've always wondered how different it would have been back in the 60s, 70s had we had email and cell.
Oh, much, much different.
Larry Kilmeyer, here you are.
Thank you.
You're wearing navy green.
Yeah.
Why'd you join the Navy?
Why did I join the Navy? Not to go to Vietnam. And pictures attest I'm in Vietnam. I joined in, I went to boot camp in March of '68, and I got out of the Navy in December of '71. But I've said many times I was blessed. I went to boot camp in San Diego and not Great Lakes, so I had great duty. Or boot camp to me was high school football practice. It wasn't tough. My first duty station was Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet Headquarters. So I was right outside of Pearl Harbor. So here's a kid from Allison Park looking around palm trees and sand. And I had extremely good duty there. Left there and went back to San Diego for A school. And after A school, I was on board the USS Bennington for June, July, and August. They decommissioned the ship. Bureau personnel comes on board, and I got my orders and went to Vietnam. And even there, we were talking supply earlier and bartering, et cetera. Well, I got to Naval Air Facility Cameron Bay, and I had been in payroll as a dispersing clerk on board ship. We didn't have pay records on our base. We had the commanding officer that you guys were talking about that was a jerk. Yeah. And he knows that we needed pay records on our base. So when first 6 months I was there, they flew people in to pay us. And he got ASMO'd to Guantanamo Bay. I'm being kind. And we got a new Captain Gallagher came on board. And I think one of the first things he did was, we will have pay records on this base. So myself and one other guy, we comprised payroll. So I had the letters A through K, except for my own. And he had L through Z. I had all the chiefs, non-commissioned officers, and he had all the officers. And so every 2 weeks, you grabbed your friends, people that you trusted. We went to the chief's mess, the chief's mess first, and he went to the officers' mess and paid, and then we went to the mess hall and paid everybody else. And, that was probably a 14-hour day for us, and so I was quite lucky. I mean, quite lucky there. So that was those last months I was in Vietnam. You fill out a dream sheet, and when you're coming home, and I put on, say, recruit station Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, or I think the closest I got was Norfolk, and that's where I ended up. So I got to Norfolk, Virginia, and they had a change of command going on there. And they informed me I was going to be the admiral's driver, and I didn't want the job, but I learned to love it. It was the best duty I ever had. And part of that reason was that I had already been on a flag staff when I was in Hawaii. And SINCPAC Fleet, my first duty station, we had 5 admirals. We had a 4-star, a 3-star, 3 2-stars. captains, Navy captains, Marine Corps colonels at the height of the Vietnam War. Captains and colonels were a dime a dozen in this command.
Yeah.
You were in a compound and you just did not walk around saluting. Everybody had their covers off, and you acknowledged officers, but you didn't have to salute while you were inside the command or inside that compound. So when I got to Norfolk, they understood that I understood the chain of command, let's put it that way. And Admiral Haddon, who I became his chauffeur, and I sat down the day after the change of command, sat in his office, and he said, we're going for a drive. He hadn't been to Norfolk, Virginia since the 1950s. And this is now 1970, and I had never been there. So we took a drive, and we kind of both learned Norfolk, Virginia together. And whenever he had a change, Washington, D.C. moved his command from Norfolk, Virginia to Brunswick, Maine. And he came to me and asked if I wanted to go with him to Norfolk, or from Norfolk to Brunswick, Maine. And at that time, you had to have more than a year left on your tour, and I didn't. And I didn't want to extend. And he said, that's not what I asked you. Do you want to go with me? And he says, give it a shot. He says, it's a new part of the country. Learn something new. And I said, okay. He didn't ask his aide, Lieutenant Gustafson. The admiral himself picked up the phone, called Washington, and said, I'm taking my driver with me. So that's the kind of I was blessed.
Yeah.
And that's where I got discharged, was out of
good duty,
Brunswick. But when you guys were talking about the new, getting rid of the pea coat and the foul weather gear, the guys that were on the flight line in Brunswick, Maine, I remember they brought I'm not sure if he was a rear admiral or if he was a captain, but this was the sloppiest officer I have ever seen. Overweight, dirty, but here he was some kind of a foul weather gear specialist. And they brought him on to bring the guys that were on the flight line in Brunswick the proper winter gear. So they did not wear their sweaters, their or their pea coats. If you were on the flight line working on, they were Navy P3s, you had special Arctic type gear. So
the foul weather jacket.
Yeah, I mean, this was gear from head to toe, boots, pants, everything. I think this officer, and I'm not, it's a long time ago, but he I think he had done duty in like Antarctica or something. And so that guy was brought on for a very short time, just a month or two, to get everybody squared away with foul weather. But so I joined the Navy not to go, I broke with family tradition. I didn't, but both my parents were Marines in World War II. But my parents never objected. In 1968, they were bringing a lot of those Marines home in bags. And so I've said it to you, Todd, and I've said it to other people. The hardest phone call I ever made in my life is to be 20 years old and call your parents from Long Beach, California, and say, the game plan got changed. And I told my parents, I'm shipping out. It wasn't until I was in my 40s that something resonated, that they both said the same thing to me.
When you told them you were going to Vietnam.
Yeah, and the first thing out of each of their mouth was, you get to come home first. And it never occurred to me that in World War II, you didn't come home first. You just shipped out. If you're in the Marine Corps, you went to advanced infantry training. And like my father, he had 2 tours in the South Pacific. And it wasn't, I don't know why. It's just all of a sudden one day you're in your 40s and you have this epiphany. Like,
you realize, you could relate to their position.
Yeah. And I think I look back and I think I probably aged my parents 10 years just in that 1 year I was gone.
Boy, is this a wonderful conversation tonight. And I see that I believe we have Joe Wilson, who was a World War II naval aviator, with us. Joe, please say hi if that's the Joe I know. Hey, Joe. From Salzburg. Is that Joe Wilson? Oh, yes, you would know Roland. You went to school together. This is all coming back to me. Joe, you're unmuted. Maybe we just can't hear you, but that is Joe Wilson. Who was, you know what? I don't think you don't have a microphone on your computer. But that is Joe Wilson, World War II Naval Aviator. We'll try and get you on sometime. I'd love to have you on. Larry Googans and Ben Wright, doesn't just this make you wish that you just were in the Navy instead of the Air Force? All these great stories. No?
Let me think about that for a minute. No. But I'll tell you what, if I might, being an Air Force guy, we only got a couple of minutes. I found this very, very interesting. I don't know much about the Navy. I don't know what it was like to be in the Navy. I'm very honored to be amongst Navy veterans. You guys had it tough, and thank you for your service. So this was very interesting, Todd. Thank you much.
Absolutely fascinating. And we haven't even gotten to Leslie Majaka. Leslie, I'm sorry that I overlooked you. How are you? You were Navy also, and you shared a little bit about why you joined. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. You're wearing a mask. We see you, Cheryl. Look at her covering up her camera. Anyhow, Leslie, tell us why you joined the Navy.
I joined because I wasn't sure that I wanted to continue going to college after high school. I just wanted to find something to do, and my father was in the Navy, so I was excited about going to the Navy and making that my after high school.
Did it live up to your expectation?
It did. I actually enjoyed my time in the Navy. I was one of the well-liked corpsmen of the Marines.
Oh, that's great.
I was at Camp Pendleton for almost 5 years.
Oh, that's good duty, I would think.
It was.
How neat. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. And if you have any pictures of yourself in the Navy, please email them to me. I'd love to show them sometime.
Okay.
I want to let people, I'm going to show, if you go on the gallery view, if you can, if you're on Zoom, Carol Popchak has been wearing that helmet the entire time. Does that thing weigh 10 pounds like a normal steel pot helmet?
I may have compressed a vertebra or two. Sitting here.
I can't. That is so great that you've been wearing.
It's heavy. That's,
And,
that's my tribute to my father-in-law. Hey, can I ask a quick question of the Navy guys? My husband was able to interview his dad too about his World War II service, and my father-in-law was he was one of either 15 or 17 children. We still haven't sorted that out, and he was, I think, maybe the third or fourth oldest. And the first question that my husband asked him in this oral history interview is, "Why did you join the Navy?" And he says flat out, "To get 3 meals a day."
Yeah.
He was a Depression era, child.
Yep.
And with that many kids, a child a year, I'm sure his family had difficulty keeping enough food on the table. And whenever he would speak of the Navy, the fondest memory was the food.
Yep.
So is the food really that good in the Navy?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yes, it
Especially on a
was.
carrier. On a carrier, you had breakfast forward of the ship, and you had dinner after the ship, or vice versa, because of course it was a 24-hour operation. And oftentimes amidships, we had a donut making machine, a hot dog stand. We lived pretty good.
And you had 4 meals a day, I believe, right? Wasn't there a
Whatever you
4th meal?
wanted. As many as you wanted.
If you wanted, but you have to remember there's 5,000 guys on the ship. You're going to wait an hour in line. So you had duty to do also. So most of that time, you didn't have enough time to eat 4 meals a day, put it that way. Someone might go down to the galley and bring up a sandwich for you or whatever. But you could always either get a breakfast or a dinner at some point at the time of the day. But it was interesting because, of course, on an aircraft carrier, the air crew often had priority because they were going up on the flight deck. We were flying combat air ops too. and you might wait an hour. That's not an exaggeration. The other fellows that served on a Kennedy, etc. It's not an exaggeration. So you took a paperback book and leaned up against the wall and just waited for your time. That's all.
I just found it interesting that the first question on this interview is, why did you join the Navy? And he joined the Navy to get 3 square meals a day. And the last question on the interview is, what is your fondest memory of the Navy? And he says, again, the food. So I've been dying to ask Navy men, and now I know.
Carol, my dear deceased Uncle Joe Branchick was on a minesweeper in World War II. And I remember being a pretty, older child, 12 or 13 years old, and asking him a little bit about it. And I was very much chastened when he said, well, I grew up in a house that had a dirt floor. I'd never seen a doctor or a dentist. We never quite had enough food. And I was able to go to the doctor. I was 17. I was in the Navy. It was the best living conditions I had ever had. Boy,
this is my father-in-law. I don't know if you guys can see the picture all that well.
Yeah.
That's Ed.
Isn't that great?
He's a good guy.
Isn't that great? I want to say hi to Dan Vaughn. I see you, Dan. If you want to chime in, you must be I'm guessing you're at a football or a game of some sort. You and Cheryl. You could unmute. You could chime in if you'd like. We see ya. And I know you have nice things to say about the Navy, Dan. That's why, even though you're a Marine, that's why I'm letting you unmute if you'd like. And I thought, we're towards the end of the program, but I've saved the best for last, of course. Julia Parsons is with us. She was a Navy wave, World War II. Look at Julia. She's blushing because she knows that I'm going to spotlight her. Julia, if you could unmute yourself, I'd love you to answer that question. Why did you join the Navy? Yep, we hear you.
There, now I'm unmuted. Well, I wanted to do something in World War II because all the men were getting to do all these exciting things, and the women could do nothing but sit at home. And the Navy just appealed to me because I could get a direct commission since I'd finished college and didn't have to go through a boot camp thing. But officer training was just about as bad, I'm sure. So, and I like the uniforms.
You knew I was going to have you say that. It was controversial at the time for women to be serving in the Navy and the Army, and there were a lot of men who didn't like it. There were a lot of fathers who didn't like their daughters, being in the Navy. But I remember you saying that your father was very proud.
He was. When I would come home, he would take me around. He was an instructor at Carnegie Tech at that point, and I had to go around with him to see all of his friends, and he was extremely proud. I'm sorry that he never knew what I did, because I'm sure he would have been proud of that also. So.
You were not able to tell him because you were a cryptologist, and that was top secret, and you were told not to talk about it.
That's right. So I never did, and he never knew what I was doing.
So he never knew.
I guess he assumed I was a secretary or something, and that was about it.
Oh, my. And how was the food?
It was absolutely delicious. I have to agree. I have to agree. The food, when the Army people talk about the Army chow, I thought the Navy mess was never bad. I never had a bad meal. It was very good.
Isn't that great? And here's a wonderful picture of Julia in World War II. How terrific. Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I enjoyed it. It was a great evening. I love to hear these stories.
Oh, these are so wonderful.
Julia, you have movie star looks in that Navy uniform, man.
She does. She does.
That was the pinup.
Yeah, she does. She's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I really wasn't. Probably good photography.
So, wow, this is great. I know that we're leaving a lot of stories on the table, but it is 8:33 here. So I thought I would close us out. And I know that we had some other guests who I hope will continue the conversation. I'd love to focus on the Navy again down the road. Eventually, we're going to have to do the Marine Corps, right, Dan Vaughn?
It's coming soon.
Yeah, it's coming soon. Yeah, there is a Marine Corps birthday, isn't there? Do you guys celebrate a birthday? I don't know.
10th of November. Yeah.
We know. We did the Coast Guard in August. We'll do the Marine Corps in November. We have to wait till June for the Army. But boy, this was fantastic. Oh, here's one thing I want to ask everybody and people who are watching on Facebook also. We would love to do our next happy hour a week from today on Monday, October 19th, on the October missile crisis of 1962. We'll be coming up on the anniversary of the missile crisis. I've just heard so much about it over the years from our veterans who were in any branch of service in 1962. It was the closest that we got to World War III, nuclear war with the Soviet Union. It was a highly active time in the military, and people who were in 1962 tend to remember what was going on. So if you know somebody who was in the military 1962, please do ask them if they could join us. I'd love to get some stories again Monday, a week from tonight. All right. And I think Leo West was out of the Army by then. So you were out, right, Leo? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Todd, maybe
yes.
1 year we could do the Beirut bombing barracks, October 23rd, 1983.
Let's do that next week. Can we focus on that next week also, along with the October missile crisis? Do them both? Brad, if you know people who were in the Marine Corps at that time?
I left Beirut 10 days before the building went up. I was went ashore there for a while, so I can relate some stories from my perspective.
Please do. And if you have any photographs that you want to share, I know that we have another Marine who is just the same as you, left right before the bombing, and I'll try to get a hold of him and see if he could join us also. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, I was with the 31st MAL, Marine Amphibious Unit.
Okay.
Company
And Todd?
Yeah.
Todd, one thing that I hate to leave on a sad note, but today is the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attack on the USS Cole. And where I can't remember the number of sailors that lost their lives, but there were a lot of them.
17,
yeah.
17 and 37 wounded.
It was 20 years ago today.
Yeah.
The captain of that ship issued a letter on the anniversary. I don't know how to access it, but he followed up on the anniversary.
Thank you for letting me know about that. And also, I'm sorry, Rick.
I'll forward the email.
Thank you. Thank you. And also, John Ferguson let us know that Roberta McCain, John McCain's mother, passed away today at age 108. She was Admiral John McCain Jr.'s wife. Just amazing.
She was as feisty as the Admiral as well.
Yes, as feisty as the Admiral. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you, John. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Yo.
Thank you.
Just have one quick question. The CO and the XO on a carrier have to be an Aviator. I'm just wondering, does it have to be a fixed wing or it can be rotary wing Aviator?
Most of the ones that I had were, I guess you'd call it fixed wing jets. You know, I don't remember too many propeller plane COs or XOs, at least on the Kennedy.
On the Constellation, that was the same. They were all combat airmen. Yeah.
Good question. All right. Thank you, John.